Alright guys, so very good afternoon to all of you, and this is the video number 595. In this video I'm going to talk about one of the dashboard I have prepared for all of you, and in the future also we will be making more dashboards, and because dashboards are the very important, they play a very important role in Excel, right? So in this dashboard what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the pivot charts and the ActiveX controls, right? So let's go and start this topic, right? So now this is a sort of a dashboard which we have prepared here, and I'm going to quickly walk you through about all these, how basically I have prepared this dashboard. So you need to understand one thing, that the database which I'm using, it's a dummy database. It has no relevance in the practical life, right? It is just the numbers which I have pasted, right, randomly. They are fake numbers. You need to understand the technique. So my focus would be on giving you the the technique, the knowledge, how what goes behind these all the dashboards, right? So you should not go and cross check these numbers with this graph and with this graph. That's the first thing I would like to tell you, right? They may not be matching. Okay, now what this dashboard says, well, this dashboard is doing a multiple roles here. Now the first of all, if you look at this region wise, so we have got 5 regions in this dashboard: Africa, Asia, Europe, India, and the Middle East, right? And this is the turnover, this is the business, right? Now this can be in millions, billions, I do not know, right? That's perfectly fine. These are just the numbers, and we are going to consider them as, it's a business done by all these the companies. If you look at this here, I have got all the multiple companies which you don't see anywhere here. All right, in this graph I'm talking about. So we have the general auto business, and then we have a company called MIG Asia, MetLife, Amity, and Sun Life, AXA Insurance, Dettol, Ace Tutorials, Bharti Limited. There are so many companies I put here, right? So these are all the fake numbers. I'm again repeating. Now what is happening here in this dashboard is, now using these buttons you can quickly go and check that. For example, if you click on the Africa, now what happens in the Africa, how these companies are performing, so you get to see their numbers. If you want to go for the Asia, you can click on the Asia, and in the Asia, MetLife is doing extremely great, isn't it, right? And this company needs the improvement. And similarly, when you go for the Europe, you have some different data. You go for the India, in our India, MetLife again is doing a pretty good job, right? And then if you go for the Middle East, then you have this. In the Middle East, by the way, we have only four companies which are coming. So this is also very important, guys. These are the minor things which I'm going to explain. Now, why in the Middle East I just see only 4 companies? It's only because of the reason that in the Middle East, only the 4 companies are doing the business. So what about the rest of the companies? They are not there. So if they are not there, why my graph would show all these details? So that is what you need to learn in this video. Okay, now what about the other things? For example, now you click on the Africa. Okay, now when you click on the Africa, you see that these are the companies and they are performing, right? Now this is listing all the relevant companies coming from your data. But what if you want only the top 3 performers? Quickly, you want to have a look. So you click on the top 3 over here, just select that and look at this. Fantastic. Now you got to see here General Auto, and this is the Dettol and the AXA Insurance Company, right? ABC, whatever these companies, right? So these companies are going to show up immediately, right? Now let's say you want to go back to your previous view where you want to see all the companies. This is the icon we have prepared here, the bell icon. Just click on the bell and see what's gonna happen. Look at this. Once you click on this, your top 3 will be removed. You're back on your same business view, right? So I click here, I got the top 3. Now what about the bottom 3? Because bottom 3 is something we want to focus in Africa. So I click on the bottom 3. When I click on the bottom 3, so these are my actually the bottom 3s. And in the bottom 3s, this is the company which actually needs really big time planning, right? So this is how it is. Now once you have look at this bottom, you can click back here and you will have all the data back. Now let's say you want to check in the Asia. So when you check in the Asia, again this top 3 is going to work for you guys. So in the Asia, these are the 3 companies which are doing pretty well. If you go for the Europe, remember in the Europe again you have the 3 companies. So this is amazing, isn't it? So you can quickly go and check all these things. And if you, so apart from this, if you look at this icon also, what I have done is this is to maximize the screen, guys. If you want to have a more look, just click on that and you see that you have a more view. So this is just going to make your ribbon, you know, hidden. So if I click back here, you have the Excel back. So this is just in case if you guys have more charts, more things to, you know, show in a single page, and you want that user should not scroll down, so you can use this option. Just click on this and, you know, that's how this ribbon will go on the hidden mode, right? So I will be talking about that. And then we have this wonderful pie chart over here, which shows the region wise, you know, the performance in terms of the percentage, you know, the total business which is coming from all these regions, and then pie is going to tell you the percentage, right? So from here also you can just go and click and you can compare the two things as well. For example, you want to pick up the Asia, India, and let's say the Middle East, so you can go and check that out, right? So this is going to show you this, right? Well, so these are all the, I mean, different options. And then this is another speedometer which I have created for you, right? This is telling us that how we did actually in the 2016 and how we did in the 2017. So last year was pretty well, because we have just, you know, almost actually touched the target, right? So this is a speedometer. This is also something you can create. And then this is a wonderful thing, the, you know, this the column chart. What it does is it shows you 2016 and 17 performance basis the quarter. Okay, so every company is listed here, and if you want to check that how they performed in the quarterly in the year 2016 and 17, you can go and, you know, quickly go and pick up the quarter from here. Right now this shows for the quarter one. So let's say I want to check that in the quarter two means that's going to be your April, May month, right? April, May and June. So if you click on the quarter two, you will be able to see that how we did in the quarter two and in the 2016 and in the 2017 year, right? So you can go and click on the quarter one and quarter two as well if you want to find the total performance adding quarter one and quarter two results, right? So this is something you can decide what you want. I just leave it like this, right? And if you further go down, you know, this is another the pivot chart we have created. You can quickly go and focus on particular, you know, the companies as well. For example, you're looking for the ACE tutorial, and let's say you're looking for the General Auto, so you just click on that, and now this is going to show you about the quarter one results, right? So quarter two, I beg your pardon. So in the quarter two, how they performed, and then you can go and select the different you know, the quarter options from here. So we can see here that basically ACE tutorial is pretty well in the last year comparatively to the 2016, and same for the General Auto, right? This company. So this is how, guys, we are actually going to work on this chart. Now since you have understood the chart now, so the couple of the very important things which I want to tell you is that now whenever you get the raw, so this is my raw data, and this data I have just created it. Again, I'm repeating, this is just a dummy data. I have put some customer IDs here, the region here, the customer name, and this is how the data is coming, right? So basically this data was given to me by one of my students. It was not exactly this data, but, you know, I just thought that let me go and pull out some good analytical information from this. So the thing is, you have the dates over here, and this is the entire data and having the total as well. So we have got the 2016 and the 17 data in the form of month, right? And these are the numbers which are coming here. Now the point is, whenever you get the data, most of the time you don't get the data in the structured form, in the refined form. The first step as an MIS analyst you have to do is that you have to pull out the relevant information, removing all the unwanted things, right? So this is basically your step 2. Step 1 I'm not going to discuss, because that's you can do, everybody has a different set of data, so you got to work on your data points using the Excel formulas, Excel sorting skills, Excel advanced filter skills, or maybe the filtering skills, you know, and then you can just remove unwanted the things from there and put your data first of all in the proper structured format like I have done over here, right? So this data is simply actually telling us about all the month-on-month performance from the 2016 to the 2017, right? So this is your data. It's a very simple data, but the information which we have extracted from this and put it in the dashboard, that's very useful, right? So you can see that Excel is actually a wonderful tool when it comes to the analysis. Now our first step which we would like to do is we would like to see that how we basically have created this entire chart and how we have created this, you know, the region wide performance. And then I will be talking about these things, you know, how we can just click on the top three, and or maybe on this bell icon, if I click, all the top three, bottom three are going to, you know, remove, and you will have all the companies coming here. So let's go and talk about this quickly, guys. Now the first thing is, because we want this entire the company data, the turnover wise, what I did is I simply created a pivot over here. Okay, so this pivot, what this pivot is doing, if I just show you the field list, it's a very simple pivot which we have created here. I just put the customer name here, which is a company name, and I'm just adding there all the month performance over here, right? So this is 1st of January, this is, you know, and then blah blah. I mean, you can see here I have got all the months. Maybe they're not sorted in the ascending order, but we don't need that, that's okay. But this is giving you the 24 months of the data, right? And then over here on the top I put the region, which is your particular the category, right, from which region it is coming. So you can see here right now it is selected India. Why it is selected in India? Because in the performance dashboard I have selected India. So the moment I select on the Africa, what will happen, if you go back to the magic, this is going to change automatically, guys, right? It's very simple. Now the first thing which I did is, after creating this pivot, what I did is I simply created the slicers. So what I did is I went to the insert and I said that I need the slicers for this, right? So here in this slicer option, I'm just going to click on this, right? If you're using 2007 or 2000 or previous versions, I'm very confident that in the previous versions like 2003 and the, you know, the previous versions which came before 2003, this slicer option is not there. So you time to upgrade, right? Even I think if you're using 2007, it's not there. In 2010, 13, we have the slicers. So what I did is I just click on this region, and to make the slicers I created these regions. Now you can see here that I got the slicers. Let me just zoom it out a little bit. So this is, you can see that you got your slicers. Then what I did is I just cut this slicer, and, you know, I went ahead and put the slicer over here. Okay, and the another thing which you see in this, I don't have any title, right? So if you look at this, my magic sheet, it has a title called the region. So maybe you can go and remove that. So once you click on this slicer in the option, you can go and click on this, you know, the slicer setting, right? When you click on that, you can say that I don't want the header, for example. If you just go and remove that, so this is gone, right? If you need it, that's fine, keep it like that, right? Now what I did is, so I did this, I put this slicer, right? I put this slicer, I cut this slicer and put it here. Now the next thing which I did is I created a chart. Now obviously the chart is going to use some values. So if you click on this chart and you click on the design and you go to the select data, you see that basically what I'm doing is I'm using this data in the magic sheet, right? So this data, I'm going to tell you how I designed it. So if you go to this magic sheet, what happened, just below this pivot, let me just change this percentage sign so that we can see what is happening here. Now guys, if you look at this carefully, what is happening here is that this is the pivot, right? So this pivot is going to be controlled by the slicer which is on the performance dashboard. So we will not do anything here. This is just going to stay here as it is, right? Now what I did is I simply said that this formula, if you look at this the table, it's coming from here. This is the same thing I have done here. So I have just linked all these companies, and the pivot is going to capture all these companies from here. Okay, and then here I'm just going to say that if this company is not showing as blank, because after this company you don't have any data, so if you go and drag this formula down, it should not give you any number, right? So what I did is I said that if you have a company here, I have just used the if function. If this value is going to be 0, then simply show it as blank. Otherwise, what it has to do, it has to sum all these numbers you can see here, and I've given the extra range as well to Z6. You can see that this range, right? So that if tomorrow you have more number of months, you can simply go and include those months as well, rather than creating a new dashboard. Okay, so it's only summing up the numbers. So you can see here basically what it is doing. It is, if you sum all these different months, you will find here that I got here, 22242 is a number 22,000, right? So all the companies here are having their total turnover, right, for all the months. This is the plan. Now one thing you may ask me that why it is showing such a less data, because we have got the 2016 and the entire 17 data, right? So the point, if you just go and right click on this show field list, what I did is, if you look at this pivot, look at this guys, I have not added all these things. So once you go and add these things, pretty fine, you will be able to, you know, sum. So my right now what I'm doing is I'm just showing you a sample. Okay, you just pick up the 2016 year only and we are trying to show this performance. So this is not including any 2017 data. So the focus is to give you the techniques, to give you the idea so that you can make your own dashboards, right? Because you may not be necessarily having this sort of data, but the focus is on the techniques guys, right? So I'm just going to add all these things. Now the next thing is which is very important. After this you create, forget about this point right now. So the first thing, I have got all the sum. Now I wanted to have the top three items here, right? Top three means in terms of the business which have done extremely well, right? So this is going to be your YTD date, year till date. This can include, I mean, 2016, 17, 18, whatever year you want to put here. Now what we did here is that these companies are coming automatically guys. First of all, look at here. So what I did is, the first step I did is I put here the formula called the large, and I said that in this range, because here the data is coming from the pivot in the form of total. So I said that I need the total, I need the first largest number, which is going to give me by this index number K, right? Now what is a row A1? Row A1, if you use the row A1 function in Excel, you will get what? You are going to get the value as 1, right? Because row of A1 is always going to return you 1. So you need a function here which if you drag, it should give you the first largest number, second largest number, third largest number in this table. And this is what exactly I have done here guys. Okay, so what if you let me just a little bit increase the size. So now you can see that it's picking up the first largest number because row A1 is here, and then you have the row A2 and 3. So once I got my all the numbers, the top three, what I'm saying is that now use the index function, right? So index function we use a lot in actually the dashboards. Sometimes not sometimes, but most of the time it is followed with the combination of the match function also. You can see I have used the match function here. So now what this actually is doing is, this is looking up this number in this list. Okay, and in this list it is going to find out the position of that number, right? So this match is if you look at this here, this match is what it is doing. This is picking up the M24, which is this this number M24, and it's finding out the position, and match returns the position. So in this position, let's say if this 29328 comes on the third position, so that third position I'm using in the row parameter of index. So finally in my table H24, this table H24 to I table, this table, right, this entire table, I'm saying that please go in the row number which comes from this 29328 and the column number 1, which is your company. So in this way you have automated the top three, right? Similarly guys, you are going to actually get the bottom three also using the small function. Same function I've used, but this time I said that I need the first smallest number on this from this table, and you got 9757, and then row of A2, this is going to return as 2. That means you're going to say that the second smallest number in this table is going to be this, right? Whatever, I mean, it comes. And then again you go and use the index function. This time we will look up the position of this number, we will find out the row number in this table, and basis the row number we will go in the first column, because I know my companies are on the first column, and you will have your top three and the bottom three coming here, right? So once you have got the top three and the bottom three, now the important part is that now what we are going to do here is, I have created here, you can see that this is linked with the performance dashboard. This is linked with the A6 and this is linked with the A7, and this basically shows me false. What is it? So if I use the control square bracket, which will take me to the formula, where it is actually used. Look at this. Now here it is linked, it has linked my the cell with the A7. So A7 you can't see right now, but I just go and move this, maybe I just go and select this slicer, and for the time being I just move it here. Now look at this. I'm going to show this as a blank font because I have given the white font so that nobody can see that. Now look at this. This is basically your two cells. Now why this is coming as false, right? Now I'll tell you the reason. So I have to get this also region wise, so I just go and move it here because I have got A6 as well. Now what is the thing? This is very important. Please pay attention what it is happening. Now when you create these ActiveX controls, so these are the ActiveX controls guys, this is not really a programming thing, okay? When you go to the developer tab, you have here the insert and you have the form control and the ActiveX controls. What I'm doing is I'm simply using these option buttons. So I'll show you. If I just, for example, I go to the new sheet quickly, let me tell you what I have done is, I go to the insert and I click on this, you know, option button, and this is what I have created. So, right, and then you select this, make sure you're on the design mode, it should be selected, and then you have to simply go to the property of this. When you go to the property of this, here you have the option called link the cell. So what I did is I said that let me link this with the A1 of this sheet, right? And when you just come out of it, now see what will happen. You in order to work on this, just go and click back on the design so that it should get de-highlighted. Now the thing is, the moment I select this, you can see that it says true. This is automatically going to come true or false. If I'm just going to uncheck this thing, you know, if I just go and uncheck this thing, then what will happen? This will again go back to the false, right? Right now this is just a one option button, but if I go and create one more option button, for example like this, and I just go and say that this is my another option button, and again I go to the property of this, now here I'm saying that it should be linked with the A2 cell. So this is what I have done, right? Now you see that the moment I work on this option button, let me click back on the design mode. So you see that now I got here true, right? Because this is selected. So this one remain as false. So in the option buttons, we have this flexibility that we can let the user, you know, not allowing, basically I can say not flexibility, but it's basically a restriction. You can't select all the option buttons in one time. If I click here, this becomes selected. If I click here, this becomes selected, as you can see here. And whichever option button I will go and select, that's gonna show as true, right? And whichever is not selected, that's gonna show as false, right? So this is the technique I have used it, right? And of course, in this option buttons, what you can do is when you go to the design mode, make sure you click on the design to edit the things. You go to the property of this, and let me just go and first select that. Now here you have the option called the caption. People who know the Excel VBA user forms, this is going to look them, you know, this is going to look pretty easy for them, right? But anyways, we are not going to use any programming here. Maybe a 1% of programming. I have to check to hide the ribbon. I have done it, but it's all about the advanced Excel skills. It has not included any VBA, guys. So here what I did is in the option button, I can write here yes. For example, you can see that this is coming here. So this is what I have done there. I said that this has to be top performance, so I just went and, you know, written there top, right? So use the caption option. Okay, anyways, let's come to the point now. So what is happening is, once I have created these top three and the bottom three, I actually got this bell icon from the, you know, the Google Images, right? And if you're using the 2016, then you have here the option. I really like this Microsoft, you know, they have included many of the icons here. Insert icon, click on this. I'm not sure about the 2013 it's there, but if it is not there, never mind. You can go and, you know, get some icon, a good icon from the Google also. So here I went in the business, I think, I don't exactly remember, but here I found this image somewhere here, maybe in the analytics. So I got that image. So what you need to do, I'll just give you a demo. I just go and select this, and then I say insert, right? So this will actually get inserted in your Excel, and just go and resize it, right? Once you go and resize it, the best part is that when you right click on this, this can be also given a macro, right? So I'm going to show you that macro which I was talking about, what I have done here. It's a very small macro. Okay, so for the time being, I go and delete this. So this is the bell icon. Now see guys, what happens right now, you have not selected anything. Okay, so when you have not selected anything, I got to click on this, and I'll show you what will happen. First, make sure that you should off this design mode. I click back here and it's gone. Now I click on the top three. The moment you click on the top three, see what happens. This comes here as true. I showed you because I have linked this top three with the A6 and this is with the A7. Now what happens if this is going to be true, then the same value I'm using it here, right? You can use the, you know, these true and the false. You can link these true false directly with this cell also, but just for my ease, I have just simply pulling out those information. It's a simple cell referencing formula. So A6 from the performance dashboard is linked with this A19, and A20 is linked with the performance dashboard A7, right? Now this is for the top and this is for the bottom. So now the idea is here, now let's come to this important part. Now here you have got all the company's detail, right, which is directly coming from your pivot, right? If your pivot will have some more companies, you just need to drag this formula down and those companies will automatically come and the dashboard will work. You don't have to rework on it, right? Now you can see that it's picking only the top three items here. Why it is not picking all the items? The moment I click on this, you know, I just go and say that just filter this, remove all the top and the bottom. You see both are now false, right? So this macro is doing what? This, if I show you, if I just take you right click and I click on the assign macro and I just take you this to this macro which is clear all, let me just go and edit this. See, this is what it is doing. It's simply doing one thing. It's putting the performance dashboard range A6 as false and A7 as false manually. So when these A6 and A7 are going to be false, automatically you will have these top three and the bottom three unhighlighted. A simple trick, right? Pretty simple thing. I have added these two lines over here, right? But the thought is quite innovative, isn't it? Okay, so now what happens when you just click on this and this becomes false and false? Obviously in your magic sheet this all both becomes false, right? Now when these things become false, you see that automatically your list will pick up all the data. So this is now you need to understand what we are doing here. Okay, now see what I have done is I said that, look at this, I said that if the first my if function says if and if A19 and A20, if both of these values are going to be false, that simply means that user is not interested in finding out the top and the bottom items, right? Because that is the only scenario when you will have these false. So that means you just go and say that if they are not false, and then the next thing which I'm doing is it's a nested if. So let's say if this condition is found to be true, then what is the next thing I want to check? Now the next thing which I want to check here is that if the D6 is where, look at this here, this D6. So if this item is not grand total, because you know the pivot always shows the grand total as well. Well, this line may not, you can avoid this line as well. I mean, you can just go and, because I'm not using here grand total, very smartly what we did is we said that in the analyze in the design view, what we did is we said that the grand total should not come here, right? So I have kept on the off, right? If you're just going to on this, then what will happen, you will have this grand total, and obviously that should not be a part of your chart. In your chart, the grand total should not appear as a company, right? So the formula what I have done is I have removed the grand totals. I have removed the grand totals, in fact, from every pivot I'm using in this, right? So this formula, when I prepared this, you know, initially I was using the grand total, so that's why I have used this. So you can remove this lines. The idea is pretty simple, guys. What basically I'm doing is I'm simply saying if both of you are false, then I just simply go and pick up the D6, which is this. Or you can also pick up this as well. That's all up to you, right? It's because both are going to be in the same order, right? So I say that if both of you are false, then I want to just go and pick this D6. And same way when you go down, it's gonna pick up so all the you know the companies from this pivot one by one, right? So that's how we are getting the companies. Now just in case if they both of them are not false, that means user must have clicked either on the top or the bottoms. In that case, what I want to do, this is also a very important thing, right? So in that case, what I'm saying, if you look at this another if, which says that if A19 is going to be true, that means I'm saying that if this is going to be true, A19, which is for the top, then simply go and pick up the L24. Now here you have already evaluated the L24, isn't it, using your index match function and the the large function. So this company would come here, right? And in case if this is not going to be true, then that means this is going to be true, obviously, right? So there are three scenarios, guys. Either both of them are going to be false, right? Or either of them is going to be true, right? So I say that if both of them are false, just pick up this. If any of them is, let's say if they are not actually, the both of them are not false, then go and see that if A19 is true, then pick up this, because then that means it's going to be the top three. And if it is not the case, then let's go and pick up the bottom three company. So that's how I'm able to get my all the companies here. Okay, so if I just show you this, if I click on the top three, now you see that you got the true here. Okay, so you go back to the magic and this comes here true. Now this is what I was talking about. Now look at this, guys. Now what happens, because your formula failed here, both you're using the if and neither, so this A19 A20, they are not actually the false, though A20 is false but A19 is not false. So condition fails. Finally it checks here that if A19 is true, A19 is true, so it's picking up this General Auto company. That is how it is, right? And the moment if I go and change that to, if I go here and I click on the bottom three, what will happen, this becomes false and this becomes true, and then you come back here and this becomes true. So if this becomes true, the company, this Manulife, this is going to be picked up from here. So nice, right? It's very simple, right? Now once you have got the company, so what we are doing here, the next step is to capture their performance. So to capture their performance, what I'm doing is, since I've got all these total over here, you know, you remember this is the total which we are getting from all these, you know, years, for all these years. So I'm simply saying that now whatever company comes here, whatever, I don't care, top 3, bottom 3 or all, I just go and simply use the VLOOKUP. So I'm going to simply say that look up this cell which is your D23, which is a company, and pick up, give me the total, because here you will find the total for all the companies, right? And obviously we have put here condition also that in case of any error, just give me the space. Okay, because what happens when you go and look up this 0 in this table, 0 doesn't exist here, so you will have the error and the graphs doesn't work on the error. So we simply saying that just go and pull out, give the space. Okay, so that's why you are able to see here space. Now why this is coming 0, obviously guys, because you don't have anything here, isn't it? Because it's working on the top item. So when you go down, these all cells are going to show you as 0, right? Now why we have used all these, I mean why we have dragged this, because who knows, maybe tomorrow when I am not interested in the bottom and I click here, and when the top and the bottom are gone, you know, obviously you need the formula here. So that's why we are trying to collate all the companies here, right? So this is the first thing. Now on this, now here comes the another part, very important part. On this data, now I have prepared a chart. Okay, so if you go and prepare a chart on this table, what will happen? For example, I'll quickly show you. Let me just go and insert a chart over here. Let's say I go and create the line graph. Now you can see here that I have got my line graph here. Okay, this is your graph, right? Now the point is, the problem with this chart is, that as long as you have all the companies coming here, the chart works like a, you know, magic, right? You got all the things. But the point is, if I just go and say that I'm interested only in the top 3, now what will happen? Look at this. I take you back to the magic. Look at this, guys. It only shows me the 3 companies, but what about the rest? Because they are not there, because your data has now 0, 0, 0, 0, and you don't want to show this kind of a graph. So what is the catch here now? Now you can't simply go and say that I'm going to pick up this entire data, because this data keeps on changing. Sometimes it shows you top 3, sometimes it shows you the entire list. When it shows you top 3 or the bottom 3, the rest of the companies goes off, and if they go off, you will find here 000, which is going to leave a poor impression to your reader, to your manager, right? So what is the idea? Now here comes the important part. So very smartly what we have done here is, we said, all right, so what we will do is, we will pick only the data up till here, if it is a top 3 or the bottom 3, and if it is all, then we will go and put the data here. But how you will communicate this thing to the Excel? So in the Excel now, we are going to use the offset function. Okay, now offset is a very, very powerful, very dynamic function. So what I'm doing is, what I have done is, I just show you this. You can go and check out my videos also on the offset, right? And there I have explained it. Basically, offset has a quality which is, in the offset you can resize the data by using reference row, column height and width. So in this case, what I did is, I said that you start from here and then give the row number 1, because I want to start from the general auto. So whatever, I mean the cell comes next to this header, because I don't want to include the header in the chart, right? And then on the same column, so for the same column you go and use the 1. Now when you press enter, you see that you start from general auto, the first company, whatever it is. Now once you start from here, you have to tell that you just need to capture the 3 rows. So how you gonna do that? Here comes then the important part called the height. So in the height, I go and write here 3, and then height means the number of rows you want to include starting from this point. Okay, and what is the width? The width is obviously going to be, you know, this 1, because I just need the company detail. So I go and, you know, press control shift enter. This time we are going to add this offset as an array. So once I have added it, then you go and press F9 to see the formula. Can you see that you got all the 3 companies here, right? Now the thing is that this 3, we can't just simply keep this as constant, because then every time this will pick up only the top 3 items. So what I did is, I simply said that, look, I'm just gonna say that COUNTIF, use the COUNTIF here and just go and give the maximum range, and in this I'm gonna say that this should not be equals to 0, right? This should not be equals to 0. So what will happen? You will have only the 3 items coming over here. so we can use this thing. So once you have created that kind of a thing, what you need to do, you got to go in the formula and you got to click on the name manager and you create this name manager. So what I have done is I have created here, guys, two name managers. Forget about all these two, chart company and chart number. If you look at this chart company, look at this. I have said that offset start from the D22 of this, go in the first row, which is this cell, and then on the same column I'm saying that COUNTIF D23 to D34 not equals to 0. So all the zeros will be excluded, and you can see this is highlighting the correct data, right? And then for the the total number of columns, I said that this has to be 1. So basically this COUNTIF is doing like a magic here. It's a very powerful thing we are using here to make sure that if we have the zeros, our data should not be excluding or including all the things. Now if I click, let's say, remove this, the top, I click back here and top 3, bottom 3 are gone. Now let me show you back here. Now see that what's gonna happen when I take you to this name manager and the same formula chart, this company I have created the name manager. Hope you will have the good understanding of the name manager, because after all we are making the dashboards. This is not a basic series, guys. If I click here now, can you see that the range has expanded automatically? Why? Because you said that offset, I want to start from the D22 and go to the first cell. The first cell means the next cell of that, which is this one, and then on the same column, which is 0, give me the number of the rows. How many number of rows? The number of rows which this formula returns, and this formula says that not equals to 0 should be excluded, and here we don't have any 0, by the way. So this is going to return you 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13, whatever it is. So 13 is going to be 13 is going to be used here instead of the 3. We have made this dynamic height. Height means 13 rows you have to include, and the first column, only the first column. So this way we have created this. Now the same way I have created one more name manager, which is this chart number. If you look at this, this is also picking the same range. Now the only difference here is that I'm just starting this from the E22 instead of starting from this D22. So the rest of the formula remains the same, right? So this way I have created two managers, chart company and the chart number. This will make sure that the data should be captured according to the relevant values. Okay, so now what we did is, finally when I created this chart, guys, now here's the important part. Now generally when you create the chart, right, you have the data coming there, A1 to C10, A1 to D10, whatever. If you go to this, the design view of this chart, if I click on the select data, you see that here what we have done. Now this is your chart. If you look at this, the edit range, if you go here, look at this. Here what I have done is I have said that my series value, series value should not be some specific range, which is going to be A, D21 to E34 or so. You can't see here. Can you see that? I don't think so, right? You don't have here any range. What it says, it's actually picking up that name manager, which is a chart number, right? And in the chart number name manager, you have already used the offset function with the height and the width, making it dynamic. So ultimately what is happening, when the chart is going to use this chart number as a range, it will pick up the data which will come in the chart number. And in the chart number, what you have got in the chart number, again let me show you. When you go to this formula tab, in the chart number you have the relevant field over here. When I just click here, it takes me back to this data. Fantastic, right? So similarly, guys, here when you go to this chart and when you click on this the design view, here when you click on this select data, you see that here also when I click on the edit, let me click on the edit. Now here you can see that I have got here my all the companies listed here, D23 to D24. So this D23 to D34, ideally what you need to do is you need to remove this, and you got to remove this till the dollar point. Just keep the sheet name here, and then go and write that name manager which you have created for your this the data, right? So what was it? Was it company, COMPNY? I don't remember, but let's go and try it. Company number, I think this was the name manager I created it. Let me go and check that. Well, if it is going to be accepted, it is there. Now it says that I found a problem with one or more formula reference. That means there is a spelling mistake, or there could be something you're not using the correct name manager. So no problem. I just again go to the name manager. Control F3 is the shortcut key to show the name manager. Now here I have here chart number. My mistake, guys. So the chart number has to be placed here. So I go here and I now again go to the design, select the data, and here I simply go and say that edit. When I say edit, I just go and remove all this manual reference, and I'm gonna now write that thing here, right? Chart number. Okay, so when I click here, okay, this is, you see that it actually has accepted all the things. Now while telling you, I have done a mistake here, right? So because you see that your x-axis becomes the numbers, my apology. Actually in the x-axis you want to show not the numbers but the company, right? So I'm gonna just quickly go and fix this. So let's quickly go to the chart, select this and go to the design, and I click here select data, and I'm gonna quickly edit this. So this is not actually the chart number for the y-axis. I'm going to replace this with chart company, right? This was the name manager I created, and it's a case insensitive, so you can use it as long as the spellings are correct, it won't mind, right? Now finally you can see I got my companies here, right? So this is how, guys, this entire chart using the top 3 and the bottom 3s are working, right? So just to recap what we did, we created the two ActiveX controls, option buttons, top 3, bottom 3, and we referenced those with the A6 and the A7, and then we created a bell icon, which is when you click, just going to run a macro and going to make this always false, because if they are false, these will automatically get deselected, right? But the point is, here we have created a pivot on the top, and that pivot is going to give us all the data, right? And then we created a slicer for this. We put that slicer over here so that it can be controlled with that. The moment, you know, I select anything here, let's say Asia, then what happens here, this becomes Asia, and obviously your pivot will show the data only for the Asia. But here comes the important part. We got all the things from the pivot, right? So here what I'm doing is I'm simply getting all these companies from the top. You can see here now these are all the coming at 00, because after this there's nothing, right? Because maybe it happens in Asia you don't have all the companies, right? So this keeps on varying, but we have got all the data. So I'm getting here all the total, the turnover up till date, and then here I'm using the, you know, large function to, and the index in the match to calculate the top 3 and the bottom 3. And this is the most important part. If both of these values are false, that means there's nothing called top or bottom, and I just go and pull out all the data from this pivot. And if it is actually, if this is a true, then I'm just going to pull out these 3 informations, and if it is not true, then obviously this would be false, right? So then this would be true. If this is not true, then this would be true. Then we will pull out these informations. So finally, when we have this information, we are seeing that offset go and pick up all the values excluding the 0, right? And that's why offset creating the range, which range I'm actually using in this dashboard, right? So this is how it is. And as far as this desktop is concerned, guys, this is very simple. I again got this icon from this, you know, my list. You can upload any sort of icon. Now when you go to this assign macro, this is a simple line which you can just go and note it down, or you just go and type in the Google you want to hide the ribbons. So what happens if you I'll show you this, the coding. If you go to the assign macro and just click on this hide and edit, you have here the command bar dot execute MSO minimize ribbon. That's it. So when this runs for the first time, if I show you F8, see this, the ribbon goes off, and if you just go and run the line again, then the ribbon comes back. Very simple line. Apart from these 3 lines, 2 macros, we are not using any VBA code. That's why I say that this is not a VBA dashboard, right? So now here what we did is, so finally, you know, I was given the task to calculate the overall region wise performance, also which region is contributing how much, right? So what I did is, because this row has a challenge. Now this row has a challenge because the dates are coming in the horizontal direction. So sometimes you have to do the tweaking also with the data points. Even after I refined this data, I removed all the unwanted things, columns, you know, I have this data, which on this data, I can't directly go and create a pie chart. So what I did is, because I wanted to show the performance, quarterly performance also, yearly performance also, so I have to do so many things. So here I have created another sheet which is going to show me the quarterly data. Okay, I'll just quickly show you this thing as well. So here what I have done is, these are all again the dummy numbers. These are the, just to demonstrate, right? They are not going to wet with this. They are not going to match up with this raw. Ideally they should, but I'm just showing you the tricks, right? So you go and what you do is, I created this, all the Europe, the regions I pasted here, and then the customer name I pasted here. Now instead of this the 1st of January, which is going in this, like in this direction. What I did is I copied this 1st of January 2016, and in this quarterly data I pasted in the horizontal vertical direction, right? So all the companies now gonna show as the data for the 1st of January. And then same way, if you just go down, so I keep on pasting all the data one by one. You can see here, this is my second February and 1st of February 2016, and then you have 1st of March, 1st of April. So basically what I did is I got all this data in this vertical motion, right? And then finally you have your numbers coming over here, these numbers, right? So I just transposed this thing, right? Why I did this? Well, I did this so that I can work on the date, because in your this raw file you can't work on the date, because I can't group the dates if they are going to show in this way. So finally what I did is, guys, on this quarterly data I created here these three two actually the pivots. So one is a very simple, it says that select month and the turnover. So if you just go and look at this, if I show you the show field list, what I have done is I have put this month over here and the turnover here and the year here on the top, right? We just grouped it actually. So if I show you, if I click on the insert and the pivot, maybe many of you may not be aware of the grouping option, so I'm going to show you. So new worksheet, let's say I go and create the pivot on the new worksheet. Now you see that I already see here quarter and year, and you must be wondering that how come I see here these years and all these the quarter performances, because these headers are not there. So what happens when you go and drag this date here, like this, and let's say I go and say that I need this maybe the region wise, for example, and I need the turnover, so I go and put the turnover here. Now look at this plus sign, actually you can go and expand this. I click on the plus sign. Now you see that, guys, here I have got here the quarterly performance. So what happened here is, because the pivot has this ability to group the dates, basically your data holds the dates. So what we did is, if I just ungroup it, you see that this is how the pivot actually looks like, right? So I click on the no for the time being, but you see that these are the dates. So what you need to do is you right click on this and say group, and then you can group them. Automatically your dates will be converted to the month, quarter and year. Excel will automatically, your pivot intelligence will automatically create all these things for you. You don't have to worry. So I say that I want to create this by the month, so you see that the months are converted. But now we do not know which month, because we have 2 years, and in the 2 years this is showing me just the Jan. So this means that this has added all the Jan months, 2017, 2016 both. So that's why it's a good thing that we can just go and say that no, I also want to see the year as well. If you want to see quarter, you can write the quarter as well. So automatically Jan, Feb, March will be considered as first quarter, and April, May, June will be considered second quarter. You don't have to worry, as I said, right? So when you click on this, yes, let me quickly click, you see that you got here Jan, Feb and all that, and obviously then you go to the design tab and make this to the tabular form to give it a good effect. So this is sort of thing I created it. Okay, so these are, I have grouped it, and to group it I first restructured the data in the vertical form. So I have got here my quarterly data. You can see here I got here my this year, and then I have got here my, so I've just undone all the things because you saw that pivot was showing some errors. So I just put that Control Z. So this is the data, right? I have kept all my year on the auto filter mode and 2017 here, and finally I'm also using the quarterly performance. So what I did is, instead of putting the year after grouping it, I'm just using the quarterly performance here. Okay, now the thing is that, so once you have got all these pivots, what we are supposed to do now? Now the first thing which I have done is, when you have created this quarterly performance pivot, I just went ahead and created the pivot of this. So if I just show you this insert and I click on this, the pivot chart, let's say I want to insert the pivot chart, make sure you select the correct pivot and then you go and see the pivot chart. So that's what the pivot chart, let's say this is the pivot chart I'm using here. Now you have got here the pivot chart, right? So this pivot chart basically shows you the quarterly performance. You can see here, so quarter 3, quarter 4, all that stuff, right? And here you have the companies coming here, right? This is the same graph which I am using there, and all the unwanted things, so you can just go and right click on that, so you just go and right click and then just hide this field. Okay, so that's something you can do it pretty well. Okay, so this is the same chart which I have created using this this pivot, this quarterly pivot, right? Simple. I can show you if you want to see that, just want to practice it, then this is what I have done. I have put the quarters on the top. after grouping, and the year is gonna come here, and then the company name and the turnover. That's it, guys. So it's gonna show me all the total of this, right? So once I'm done with that, what I did is I put that pivot chart here. If I just maximize the screen here, so this is that pivot chart, the same chart, right? This is done. Now let's talk about the speedometers, right? These are the two speedometers. And by the way, this chart is left. So this is very simple. What I did is, if you go and check my this magic sheet, now here what I'm doing is, if you scroll it down where we got the top 3 and the bottom 3, here I have just created a pivot using simply a region and the YTD. You can make this pivot more dynamic, because I know this looks a very simple pivot, right? But as I said that I'm just trying to give you the idea. So this pivot basically I've created, and on this pivot, if you go and insert the chart, you're gonna have this sort of chart created. I'm using the pie chart because I think that gives me the good information. So right now if you look at this 35%, so this particular you know, this like you can say that Asia and then India is doing pretty well, and this is the Africa is where, you know, you need to really focus, right? That's how it is. Now the important part is how you created this achieved versus target, the speedometers. Now what I'm doing is, if you come to this quarterly data sheet, now you have already calculated the 2017 and 2016 pivot data, right? So here I have got all the turnover basis the months, and this is my total, and this is my total for the turnover, guys, right? So what I'm doing is I have put the target here. Now these targets obviously you will write here manually. So this entire data is directly coming from the top of the pivot, from here, from this. You can see this, I have just used the formula here, that F2, if I press F2, this is just coming here, right? And same way I've kept the data here also from this pivot. Only thing is that I have put the target here. So for the Jan, this was the target, this was the target, and so on, right? Now to create the speedometer, if you do not know anything about the speedometer, please go and check my playlist Excel VBA charts, and I uploaded 2 videos on the speedometer, 30 hours duration for each of the video, and I've explained all the science behind it. So in the speedometer, basically you have to set up the targets, right? So here I'm saying that if this is your number, right? So you can see that this number is, so this number is 30 lakh. So I said that any performance which goes below 30 lakh, it should be, you know, we should give it a red area, okay? And then we have set up the target. So you can see here I have set up the target as well, right? So this is the target, 9 lakh, let's say. Now 9 lakh could be anything. It could be in dollar, it could be in any other currency, I don't know. So what we did is I added this is a speedometer trick, right? So I added these numbers. Similarly, I got here the target for the 2017 also, the target and the total, right? Both the numbers are same, right? You can change them, that's all up to you. Now here I am saying that what I have achieved so far. So far achieved is going to actually come from here. This is the total, because this is the total, you know, my YTD performance for the 2016. So I got this here, and this is I used to, you know, create that the needle, the speedometer, right? And then the formula which you apply is this apply, you know, you apply this formula, you just go and sum this entire thing, and then minus achieved and the needle size. This needle size basically is for the thickness of that, you know, in the speedometer, the needle where it goes, right? This needle I'm talking about. Okay? So as I said, you can go and check out the videos on the speedometer, because speedometer itself is a big topic, right? But I'm giving you the idea. So finally what we did is, so I have got my achievement. So here you know, what I achieved is, you can see here. So I got here only 2,51,693 out of my target, which is far below the target, and that's why, guys, you see the needle on the red area, isn't it? So speedometer on this also. So my speedometer is using basically this data for the 2017, and for this 2016 this is using this. Yes, now what happens is, if you look at the speedometer, what I've done is, generally speedometer ends at the target point. I mean, if you have achieved the target, you know, this line, you know, this needle, it should show here, but in my case it is not going to show here. You can see here I still have some buffer here. The reason is because what I have done is I have tried to show here that your target, the minimum target was, you know, this 9 lakh, but the total, the graph which we have made, that's on the 12 lakh. Okay, so that means, it simply means that you are going, you're doing pretty well, because after all you're not at all in the red area. So from here the green starts, right? But if I just go and just to explain you the things, because many of you would ask me this thing, because I have seen a lot of guys when they make the speedometer, they want that, if I have overperformed, because if my target is 9 lakh and I'm performing 10 lakh 63, which is more than the target, my speedometer should actually not show here, but it should flat, it should, my needle should drop here on the extreme, on the where this basically the chart, the pie chart ends here, isn't it? But the point, that is what I'm trying to clear here, is that I have given enough scope. I have kept the extra, the numbers also for the the speedometer. So for example, if I just go and change this 10,63,945 to 12 lakh, look at this, what's gonna happen. Let's say I say that yes, I have performed maybe more than the target. Right now, look at the performance dashboard. Now look at this, guys. This is what you need to understand. Are you getting the concept? So I have deliberately created the extra buffer, because I say that maybe if you go up to 12 lakh, then yes, you will show at the end, but in case if it is not, then you would definitely show near to that, the total, the green area, right, this area. Okay, so that's, I mean, you can design the things according to you. Let me just undo it. So I'm above the target, it shows me in the green area, and it's anyone who look at this, they can say that yes, the target actually is achieved. So maybe you can put here a message box, a kind of a comment that the chart has been made considering the total performance of 12 lakh revenue, isn't it, guys? That's how you can do it, right? So similarly, let's say if your this is your 12 lakh, so let's say you performed here 6 lakh, so I'm going to write here 6 lakh, press enter. Now let's go and check that. Can you see that? Exactly the 50% of the speedometer. So you need to just keep these things in mind. Okay, so that's how you can create this. And by the way, guys, if you want to look at this file, then just send out the email or put the comment in the comment section, and I'll forward you this file, right? So this is all about my performance dashboard, your performance dashboard. So it's not something which you are going to create in minutes, in seconds. It's going to take a little time, and I've taken almost, I think, 1 to 2 hours to build this dashboard, so that I should share this with you. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, and we will be coming back. We will be discussing more different types of the dashboards very soon. Thank you so much. Like the video and share your comments also, and please share this YouTube channel, work with the other professionals also, or people who want to learn Excel, VBA, Access, or Access VBA. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.